Hi, George. Happy New Year to you
Yeah,
almost a month
happy New
later.
Year to you, Dale.
Yeah,
So always good to be back here.
yeah. I caught in your stream that you've gotten out of the market, and
Yeah, I
that's a
have.
big change for you because you've been
Yeah.
long forever
Oh yeah, and it's stressful
to
because
be out.
yeah,
To
to be
be
out when you
okay.
don't have risk, and it's especially stressful because and I want to share this with you guys because there's every reason why we'll carry on upwards in the market, and there's also all sorts of interesting opportunities, I think. But we're overlaid with a pretty crazy governance right now. This is not to diss Trump or be pro-Trump or anything like that, but there's just no leadership coming out of the Senate, Congress, the House. Trump is just, he's baffling me. I'm bewildered, I guess is a better word. And I think we're set up for very large jumps. I think it might actually end up up, and it might end up in a mania. I got some stuff to show you, but I think it also could be a very dismal setting. But what it is going to do is shift out of like the framing that people have in terms of macro analysis and also perhaps your stuff too, technical analysis, and just suddenly appear in a whole different valley. And so I had a great
Well,
year,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So you felt uncomfortable with
yeah, it's just
I mean tariffs. You're an economist. Tariffs
yeah.
aren't a bullish thing, a growth policy.
No, they're not bearish, but the trouble is that they're strategic. If the tariffs do come in and they're regularly known to all our trading partners, people have no choice but to deal with the United States. And whatever they say, we're going to go deal with Taiwan. Okay, fine, but they will deal with the U.S. So there could be a one-time jump in prices, which is not inflationary. It's just that things are worth more. They cost more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're gonna hit the original Lighthouser, who was the original trade guy under Trump one. We will be motivated to build quite a lot of production capacity here in the U.S. And it's coming in a fairly tight labor market. So I think as sort of a pragmatic economist, I'm actually all for them. Now, the thing with Trump is that he seems to always want to go a bridge too far. So replacing tariffs with income tax, getting rid of income tax, I don't know. And anyway, that process is going to be a very, very chaotic. People are going to say a lot of goofy stuff. He's going to, already he had to back off his holding of funds uh, because the courts are going to go after him. He's headed for a major fight with the Supreme Court. I think it's a mistake to see the Supreme Court as Republican, like they're his appointees. I don't think they see that. They see themselves as federalists, and that's even the most adamant conservative type guy. And I think they're going to claim the constitutional powers of the Supreme Court and go head to head with Trump. I think that'll
Wow.
be a surprise.
That would be. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Interesting.
the other thing too, you're talking about peso, and I was looking at Canada. It's interesting that the Canadian foreign minister, right now, just today, or was it just yesterday, the first meeting that Rubio took was with the Canada. So they're already in deep negotiations. And then Lutnick let slip the day prior, that if Canada would just stop shipping fentanyl into the United States, they wouldn't have any tariffs applied. Now, I think he screwed up. I think, and this is alarming too, that the Commerce Secretary make this mistake, if it is a mistake. I think he meant Mexico, because
Yeah,
Canada,
there's not fentanyl coming from Canada.
well, there's like,
Uh,
I don't know, 2 pounds. I have no
I
idea.
mean, I do have my Crown Royal imported. Anyway, but
What do you do with the
yeah,
little
well,
blue? What do you do
yeah.
with the little blue bags?
Oh, I put all my Bitcoin and gold coins in there. You want my address? Anyway, George, did you go into like bonds to get some interest or your
No,
short-term stuff?
I have a problem with bonds is that the correlation, like the amount of
Yeah,
offset you get from bonds to equity, is still positive. It's pretty crazy, and bonds are still considered as in the bailiwick of the Fed, and they're still considered to be a higher rates is bad for equity, and that hasn't gone to the reality of economics, which is that the higher the risk free goes, the more it's indicative of a higher NGDP, which is more indicative of a higher equity market. In other words,
yeah.
equity bonds should be an offset. So I don't get that correlation. I think it's going to come back with a bang, but until it does, I'm not going to play.
You have a view on what's happening with gold about to press into new historic highs?
No, I stay away just because maybe it's a cheat, but I stay away from gold and crypto.
Okay,
It
all right.
doesn't fit any of the frameworks that I apply. The big story I think here, Dale, is that we have still very significant money coming into the economy from the federal government. It was massive in COVID, like 9 trillion gross. I think I mentioned this before. And now it's much less, but people are just looking at it as much less just because it ain't incredible. But it's still very strong, and it's more than enough fiscal impulse into the economy to generate 6.5% NGDP. I think that means that we're going to see another bout of inflation rising. It's going to be less jagged, but I think it's going to like inch up bit by bit toward 4%. And I think real GDP, which I think we saw this morning, it's just a head scratcher. I think I don't want to get into conspiracy stuff, but I think they're painting the picture to assist the Fed. And they're trying to let the Fed be able to ease with honor to suit Trump because it was clearly well over 3% until we had inventory and trade. And trade, yeah. They're both notoriously volatile. And anyway, Trump is adamant that he's going to address the trade problem. So maybe they're stockpiling stuff before the barriers go up. I don't know, but I don't think it's an indicative number that means anything as far as the economy goes.
Okay.
As far as Canada goes, I'm as I sit here on my hands and to stay out of trouble, I'm quite willing to say, like, heck, I might end up with missing a huge rally. And it doesn't do anything like what it could have, should have, that, hey, it could have fallen out of bed, so I did the right thing. It's just very stressful. But what I am doing is I'm finding it not so much easy, but it's interesting to trade currency. And then I get into the technical analysis camp. I'm seeing very clear patterns. I worked in Canada for a while. I'm originally supposedly Canadian. Every year I gotta go buy some loonies to walk around. So that, it doesn't make me an expert, but I have in the past, probably too long ago to justify claiming knowledge. But I have traded considerable size in Canadian, and my thoughts now is that it is an impossibility for the United States to put a tariff on Canada. And it's an impossibility for Canada to respond or retaliate. We get 30% of all our construction goods from Canada, basically softwood. And that's just not going to happen.
Okay, so you don't expect the tariffs on Canada. So are you looking for a major bottom? Here's Canada. Let's go a little long term and tell me what you're seeing and what side of the market you're looking to trade. There's a weekly. So are you going to bet that Canada can get stronger? Because this is representative of it being weak, right? And
I think 134 to 138 is a screwed up Trudeau and all they're flopping
Oh,
around with all the junk
yeah,
that they're doing.
the
Uh,
breakout.
yeah, and I think it's going to go down there, especially if the progressive conservative, I always love that name, get elected. And it's almost like a Trump clone is running for power, and it looks like he's got 20 points ahead of the liberals. So they are going to come into power, and that's going to eliminate the NDP, this coalition government of NDP. That's the socialists with liberals, and I think it's going to have big change. So I think at the very least we're going to get to 138, and we're probably, we might be in store towards something like under 120. But
Okay,
anyway,
so the potential major top, and you know what? There you have some pretty smart company. Joseph Wang. I interview
okay,
some smart. You're not the only smart guy I talk to.
yeah,
Joseph Wang was on the Fed desk, Fed guy 12,
yeah,
and he was looking for a return in the dollar, so he converted dollars into Canadian. So he's long Canada,
hmm
and he's using the Canadians to buy natural resource stocks in Canada
I don't think
with
that's.
dividends.
I think that's a wise move. Going into stocks. Now I don't know anything about Canadian stocks these days, and I do know that Toronto's much more of an oligarch type organization than anyone thinks,
Yeah.
and it's an insider market. So I'm not going to play with the stocks. But the Canadian dollar, it has to go to certain levels just to be able to, for the good of the United States, for the huge partnership. Even the fact that Canada, I don't know if it's right to call them the 51st state, but they're definitely within the U.S. domain, and
Yeah.
so that's going to correct. And all this talk about tariffs and blah blah blah, and Trudeau's going to retaliate. Well, anyway, the Canadian Foreign Minister is sitting and talking to Rubio. It's the first meeting he took as state.
Okay.
So that's
So
the.
they know how important Canada is to us.
Oh yeah,
We
yeah. They
yeah,
they they absolutely
you
know.
know,
I think a lot of people in the U.S. think Trudeau's a flamer. I can't disagree with them. The vast majority of Canadians now think that too. But it's typical for Trump. He's going too far, and he's actually sitting in an opportunity to really sink in Canada, drop Mexico, stop the back door of outsourcing that they'd use Mexico for. Got the cartel problem, so I think that's where Rubio's going to go. Rubio's a deeply experienced person out of the Senate. He's like one of the few adults in this administration so far, and I think we're going to see some interesting things coming out of that. So what my
oh,
game plan is just day trade, and as soon as I can get like one or two points, maybe down to 142, then I'm just going to let it go overnight and build. So that's a game plan. I don't know. That's in your belly. What do you think about that, Dale?
okay. You haven't traded for a while. I would trade small ball, trade micro lots in Canada for a while. You're not going to get paid, but you'll still have some money on the line. So that emotion is part of it. And do that for about 6 months and see
Yeah,
how you did, and then increase size.
yeah.
You
Well,
asked for advice. I mean,
yeah. No, I'm
you're,
taking it. Actually, it's sort of what I'm doing. I'm really
yeah,
playing in it almost. Just doing like 50, 100,000 lots.
yeah.
So 50,
That's one contract. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's 50,
Well,
$50 to
yeah,
100
yeah,
point.
right.
So I've I'm really respecting my
You know what you ought to do? You ought
what's
to
that?
join Forex Analytix and be inside the community and really and
Yeah, no,
learn. You
I
can
think
learn.
I
You
think I
can
said before to you that it was certainly the case for the last 2 years. It's now the case is that if you're trading equity or any risky assets, you only have two choices. one, you can join the mem froth, like the sentiment. It's up here, it's down here, it's RRP, it's all these acronyms and inside secret sauce stuff, and whichever has the most follow gets to run the market for a day or so.
Well, you know what? You only have two eyes, and that's why being part of a community is important.
Okay,
Because uh, uh,
I'm complimenting you. You'd like me? Yeah, sure.
yeah. Anyway, if not ours, find a good community,
Yeah,
and find people that are better than you.
yeah,
To
but
surround yourself with better traders.
yeah, but carrying on is that the other option is to take a 1 to 2 year view
Yeah,
and look
I
for the
guess.
macro only, which is
Yeah,
what
you
I've
could do
done.
that.
And
Yeah,
then the other otherwise, I think whether these sentiment guys want to admit it or not, the technical analysis is all there is now. The Fed is so distant from reality. The administration's crazy, at least from my point of view, that I think all there is loss control and trading the patterns.
yeah. Okay. Well, I wish you a lot of luck on your new career. Uh, I just have seen a lot of people do it, and you don't become a good technician overnight. So take it
Yeah,
slow. Take
no,
it slow.
I'm very respectful of it. I've worked too many years with foreign exchange guys,
All
so
right, and
you know, so,
don't
yeah.
forget to use stops. If you ever
Oh
hear
yeah,
use,
no, you can
yeah,
talk to your blue in the face, and they look at you like a fool when you start talking about the spread between 10 years between Germany and the U.S. Blah 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 blah.
yeah,
Uh, and then they just nod politely, and then they just go out and make money.
yeah,
So I get it.
yeah. You have a stop in there at all times.
Yeah. What I'm hoping, Dale, and I'll just leave this with you, is that I'm hoping that I don't really care if it's good or bad or this or that, but I just want things settled. That we understand what this administration can and can't do. We understand what Senate is going to do and can't do. We get what the Supreme Court's going to do, and we just get settled and it gets priced in. Uh, and then I think there's a very good chance that we have the every like it sounds foolish to even to say it, but there's so much money coming to this market from the Feds still. The Federal Reserve is just a non-event right now. I don't know if Wang mentioned that, but I certainly think all they are is just spinning mems. And I think that's going to add up to that. As soon as we settle down, we're going to have just a glorious mania. Just wow.
Okay, so
And
how about this for a takeaway? We get a 10% or more correction into the spring, into, March, April, May, and then by then the Fed is pumping even more, and we have the melt up that you're talking about into,
yeah, and I don't think we're going to get the correction.
no
I think
correction.
either there's going to be some political problem, which is going to start the downside of the mania right away. So
The
it's going to be a
down,
lot more than
the
10%. But as soon as that settles and we're still alive, despite the craziness,
oh,
there is just
oh,
so much money coming into this economy, and
all right.
it's
Well, here's the S&P, George. Are you saying that
yeah.
we're going to have that's what I said. You think it's going to be more than a correction? We're going to have like what, like 20-30% sell off in S&Ps to take us down
No,
again?
I think we're going to like settle right around here, maybe down to 5,900, maybe up to 6,100.
Uh,
A lot of talk, a lot of contrary. There's no, it's this tastes good, less filling.
mhm.
All sorts of newly minted economic geniuses, political analysis, pro Trump. Anyway, it's just going to be a mess. But as soon as there's clarity, I think we're going to see. We're going to go up toward. Anyway, it's almost ridiculous to put a level, but a mania. It's going to just drive, and everyone's going to do high fives, and Trump's the greatest, and all this stuff. And so I guess you want to ride the mania, but it's sort of like surfing in a hurricane wave. But what's going to come after this mania, and who knows where it takes it? Well over, 6,500.
7,000. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
well
Yeah.
over. I think
Okay.
it's going to be very dire because all our institutions are going to be failing, and then it's almost too dramatic to say where it goes down. But I think we're up for an end game of like, I don't know, 29, 19, 12, all these
Yeah,
like very dramatic things to say, but
yeah.
it's going to be pretty wild.
So I'm still trying to figure out why you're not long.
Because there's a
After listening to you for 20 minutes, why aren't you long?
because I don't know if I can get out if I think there's a chance that we have a really big constitutional crisis way beyond Jan 6. It's going to be just a mess.
Before or
It's
after the meltup?
before. And
All right. Well, then you're talking if a constitutional crisis. Why? Because of the debt ceiling?
no, it's going to be like impeachment's going to come up. I don't know. It's just there's too many offsetting crazy things going down. Maybe I'm just a coward, but
Okay.
I don't want to play in that midst.
All right. Well, you're the most strongly bullish neutral guy I've ever talked to. Anyway, George, I root for you. Whatever you want to do, Godspeed and may
Well,
pips rain down on you.
I'd be complimented to join your community quite frequently, and I'll make sure that I'll message you in terms of whether I break one way or the other.
All right, buddy. George
Okay.
Robertson. You still want people to follow you and read your stuff on
Yes,
Substack?
please.
So here's
At,
George's Substack on. It's called The Monetary Frontier, and he has all of his articles, and you could tell that George is really a thinker, and I learned some things from him that a half an hour ago I didn't know. So
yeah,
there you go, George. We're
yeah,
fans.
that'd be
We're
great. Also, if you want, that's where I try to show that I'm sane. But if you
Yeah,
want some off the cuff, sometimes thoughtless comment, at Bickerin Brattle on X.
good hunting, my now
Okay.
trading warrior brother. Now I can really call you a trading warrior brother. Anyway, all
Okay,
right,
let's
buddy.
see how I do.
All
Okay.
right,
All
okay.
right. Talk
All
to
right,
you.
George.
Bye
Rooting
bye.
for you. Adios. All right, that's a wrap, everybody, for today. I hope you enjoyed. He is into, yeah. I like George a lot. Okay, so we'll see you guys tomorrow. Don't just count your pips, count your blessings. We'll wrap it up with TGIF. Good hunting, everyone.
Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with Forex Analytix. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like these videos, share them, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the content that we provide here for free. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.